Hey guys, it's Jason from SUMURI here. I have Steve with me, and today we're going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is the TALINO workstation. Steve, how'd you come up with the concept for the TALINO? And thank you, by the way.
Yeah. So again, we've mentioned in previous podcasts. I think you're going to get sick of hearing this. So this is, we're trying to help. Again, coming from law enforcement, coming from Delaware, being raised, with not much money, in a family, single mom, all that good stuff most of the time. I learned how to do things on the cheap. So but not sacrifice quality, right? So. I don't know how to explain it. I do like real Pop-Tarts, not the fake Pop-Tarts,
Sure.
right? So, I find a way to get real Pop-Tarts. But the thing is, when it came to workstations, I was out with another colleague, and we're having a conversation about building workstations. So, in the past, I've used others' workstations, being law enforcement, and, just like what I thought was the top of the line in workstations. And in that discussion, there was a lot of criticism, without naming, who those people are, about those workstations. And as they went through the criticisms, I was just shocked to hear, that really, they don't, so again, being in the business, like I mentioned,
Right.
You want to maximize profit. And what was happening, and what it sounded like to me, is that the people that developed forensic workstations for law enforcement, military, corporate, whoever, were more focused on maximizing profit than actually delivering the best product possible for a good cost. And when you actually run the numbers, it's scary. It is really scary. So
Sure.
that's what we did. So I actually designed a low, medium, and high-end workstation, but we did it from the ground up, right? So designed it from the ground up where, as a forensic examiner, having built machines in the past, I know I'm known for Macs and stuff like that, but again, back when you can easily work on components and stuff, I've fixed and repaired and designed many computers for many people, even though I convinced them to try to get a Mac. But I actually, I ended up building a lot of and fixing a lot of Windows workstations or PCs or Linux, right? So, so anyway, design them from low, middle, and high-end workstations using only superior components, completely designed as I would from a forensic examiner perspective, right? So a lot of people you can just get a high-end gaming system, but yeah, that's a good start if there's nothing else. But you can tweak these workstations to be optimized for the forensic software, both on the settings side and then also on the hardware side. And so that's what we did. So we actually designed them and then looked at the cost, not cutting any corners whatsoever. And just to give an example, right, you can use you can split buses, right?
Sure.
And then it's cheaper, but it's going to degrade the quality of the actual IOs, right, the input output. So not cutting any corners. And what I found out is that current existing manufacturers at the time for forensic hardware were jacking up the price quite heavily. So. And of course, I'm not here to criticize any of those people, and I don't know what their operational costs are, but I know there's a way that we could do it for half of their profit and still put out a better workstation, better optimized, better designed, more quality components, and deliver it for a way lower cost. So again, that was a win for law enforcement. So we did it. And introducing TALINO.
And so the reality of that is that that does not translate into their, I guess the thing that Steve's talking about is he doesn't know what kind of overhead those companies have, what they have to pay for their facility and all the rest of that. That obviously was not the issue, because since then the TALINO brand has grown quite substantially, and we're now we are on every continent. We're with law enforcement. We're with a ton of really cool agencies and companies that you would not believe. NASA comes to mind, Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, the JPL, Rocket Alliance. There's just a ton of different really cool places, as well as all the three-letter agencies you can think of that are using them, and our competitors as well. And we've now gone from building these in a basement, Steve, to actually building them in a facility that we keep upgrading, and we're moving into a new facility here in a couple of months that's going to be even better. And so the answer is, and prices are now stabilized, right? Everybody's charging about the same for workstations. So, your thought about that, I think, has actually changed the industry and brought all costs down for all workstations. That being said, you still need a TALINO.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So the thing is what we found out within 2 years of actually producing Talinos is that people that had been in business way longer than us started copying what we were doing or trying to copy it. Like literally, it's like trying to source the exact cases that we had and showing up at conferences with the same exact like case model that we were using at the time. And just basically just trying to copy, which scares me because if you've been doing it for over a decade, why are you copying person that's been in business for only 2 years doing workstations, which I look at it as like kudos to us, right? So we must be doing something right if people are just let's say the old timers are actually trying to copy what we're doing.
Absolutely, and so that kind of leads us into the chassis, the foundation of the Talino. And Steve's absolutely right. There were a lot of people that were attempting to imitate it. And the thing about our chassis is it's all aluminum, it's proprietary, right? And it's the thickest, heaviest chassis out there. So why? Right, in a nutshell, it's and this is helpful for sole sourcing, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But but in a nutshell, the proprietary chamber chassis that we have has two chambers, right? So on the left side of the Talino, you're going to find all the things that have to be connected to the motherboard: the processor, the video card, the RAM, the cooling for that, and on the front of that is nothing but fans pushing air across those to keep that at max cooling, max efficiency. So the cooler that is, the faster it processes, and also most importantly, the longer it lasts. So we hear from people all the time that say, hey, I need some more Talinos. The oldest ones we have are closing in on 5-6 years now, and they're still humming along beautifully. We need more like that, just updated for the new technology. So that dual chamber is part of where we got to, and we went through some other designs at the beginning before we got to this final solution that we've now is now proprietary to us, and we're the only ones that have it. And that's moved over to the right side, all the normal things that you would see in a straight tower configuration: your drive bays, your USB hubs, your Blu-ray writers, all of those things that produce heat, even in small amounts, are on the other side. So that heat never makes it over to the processing side of the Talino, and that's the big difference on the chassis.
Yeah, so that's just genius. So a lot of people, I guess their complaint would be that, oh, your boxes are too big. Like it's just like a big cube, right? So, but again, the chassis is the reason, right? So yeah, go right ahead and shove everything into the same box, right? And then all the heat's in the same place, and it's going to lead to your components wearing out faster. It's going to lead to slower performance. It's going to lead to more blue screens. It's obvious. We've known this over time because not only have we've worked on our own, we've worked on just about everybody else's as well because we're a nice company, and a lot of people can't afford to purchase something right now, and we fix other people's stuff, whether it's an off-the-shelf box or it's another forensic computer. So we've had a chance to evaluate a lot of different systems, and we see what fails on a lot of different systems. And again, we try to take all that out. We actually think this through. We don't just design and throw some parts in a computer, like a gaming system, and go, it's a forensic computer now, you should buy it, which is what I think a lot of people try to do. I mean, if you ask what is forensic about a workstation to the people you're buying it from, they'll probably tell you, well, it's got a write blocker in it. That doesn't make it a forensic computer.
Not at all.
It doesn't, there's processes, like you need somebody that actually has done forensics for years, and to actually help design and know how to optimize. Because talk about that, like the fact of just like if somebody wants to buy Talino like off the website, are you going to sell it to them right away?
No. So here's the thing, right? So we have to figure out how to handle Talinos on our website, right? And so there's about 5 or 6 models on there, and customization is an option, right? But customization is entirely what we do. So you can purchase a Talino directly off the website. If you do, we're going to contact you, and one of our designers, who is a certified forensic computer examiner. Everyone that designs or sells the Talinos is a certified forensic computer examiner, and we're going to take you through some questions. We're going to find out what kind of cases you work. Are you ICAC? Are you financial? What kind of cases do you do? What applications are you using? Because there's a world of difference between using Axiom and using Nuix and using Ncase. The setup is different. The drive configurations are different, right? And we've worked with engineers between those companies companies and ourselves and our knowledge as forensic examiners to figure out what's the optimal configuration. So it's not necessarily just that your temporary stuff needs to be on an SSD or an M.2 SSD, and then your processing maybe is on a rated set of SSDs, right? But it's the size of the SSDs, how it handles the input output. All those things are what go into making a forensic computer and not just a high-end gaming rig.
Yeah, so going back to what you said, and just to focus on it, but that we work with other, the makers of these software products and stuff like that, and we're saying forensics, but you mentioned Nuix. Nuix is e-discovery, right?
Correct.
And they handle big data.
Absolutely.
And I think the reason that we started working with Nuix even more closely is because they were shocked at how fast we can make their actual software run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the great thing about being able to work with these guys, and then actually not just working with them, but proving that we can actually do it better. And we do, like, so we can customize any workstation for any needs, because we've done stuff for full-fledged servers, right? We've been selling a ton of servers lately.
Yep.
To a lot of different agencies, and then stuff that relates to, we've done, I think, video analysis and image processing and audio forensics and what else?
You name it. So
casinos.
Crazy
stuff.
Every some really cool banks that we've worked with, casinos, airlines. Everybody's doing forensics anymore. A national library from a country that's almost a continent, I'll leave it at that, was looking for a forensic solution, right? Because obviously bad things happen on library internet systems.
Yeah, and then I was just even, like, one of the things that was amazed me at the time was just the people that actually make the chips, like, are using our workstations.
Yep.
Which I think there's no greater compliment than that.
You're right about that.
Well, so and let's talk about the Plexi, because that's really cool too.
That's absolutely cool. So at no additional charge, and this is something that we purchased, I guess 4 years ago now, maybe. We have a CNC router at our shop, and you have two choices. You can take our company logo on the side of your TALINO, which is an option. But what's really awesome, Steve, is that you can actually put the logo for your agency on there or whatever you want. So we've had a lot of really cool ones. I'll be honest, my favorite one is NASA, right?
That's awesome.
We've partnered with NASA for many years now to provide computers for them, and every time we build one, I have to see it in a dark room with the NASA lit up with the fans. Really awesome. And we've had people that have donated TALINOs to agencies that the agency's asked, hey, can you engrave the name of our donor on the side for it? Can you get our agency on there? It's a really big thing for us, is, again, giving back things that other people don't think about, I think, is what really defines TALINO. So it sounds like a little thing, right? But those are the kind of things, and that's what Steve does for us as our chief product officer. Those little things are things that matter, right? The look, the logo, the number of fans, the way that they look, all of that stuff. If you don't take pride in what you do, and we take great pride in what we do, and I would assume all other people, and certainly our partners in law enforcement, take great pride in what they do and want to recognize that. Plus, it's good for the command staff.
Like being law enforcement, when somebody walks in your lab and they see that with your logo on the side of a workstation, not to mention that it's probably the best workstation you can get out there, and it's got your logo on it, and it's got, nice shiny little lights on it. Everybody knows what supervisors thinks when they see flashy lights and shiny stuff. It must be working good, but it actually does. And it's a nice thing to showcase in your lab when people, because a lot of stuff that we've done, or I've done, and people do now, it's great to be proud of your work. And speaking of, like, the fans, right? Like, even a lot of thought went behind in the fans. Again, being a forensic examiner, I've worked with workstations that sound like rocket engines that you're sitting next to. And when you're spending more time with that workstation than you're spending with your wife or significant other, right? It's going to drive you nuts eventually, these fans. And so we worked really hard to find, like, long-lasting, high-performance fans that have very low decibel levels. We go down to that quality, and not just a couple. We put, like, 9 fans in our workstations now.
Oh, nice try. So 9 in a really small one. So I think the average is around 15. We can get up to 18 on certain configurations. But again, we cool anything that we can, right? So anywhere we can put a fan, we put a fan. It's all designed toward moving the air. So yeah, way more fans than anybody else.
Yeah, and same thing like even with the power supplies, right? So we don't give you just what you need. We make sure we almost double what you need, I
Oh yeah.
believe. So like every component within the workstation is going to have some sort of draw. There's calculators that you can get online to actually computate the draw from what you're going to need for a power supply, and then we tried to double that as much as possible.
So that's a good point, and that leads to something else that we do that other people don't do, and it's not very expensive to do. But for our raids with rotational drives, right, the biggest issue that you can have there is you fire the machine up and all of the drives spin up at the same time, right? So that's an issue with power supplies. So all of our raids that have rotational drives have a capacitor that's in between and actually distributes that power out evenly, so that you have a smooth spool up, longer life, and less raid failures through that. All little tiny things that we've learned over the years or through our experience with forensic workstations.
So going back to not cutting corners, and since you mentioned rotational drives, let's talk about SSDs and our partnership with Samsung.
Cannot emphasize enough the support we receive from Samsung and their dedication to helping change the world. They've been a great partner in the fight. We get great service from them, certainly a long-running partnership with them. And obviously those are the best SSDs on the market. You cannot get another SSD in a TALINO. If you ask me to put another SSD in a TALINO, I will respectfully decline.
Yeah, so Samsung has been really great. I mean, so a lot of people don't know there's only a few factories that make SSDs, and they're graded just as like rotational drives are graded. So Samsungs were always at the top of the list, if not consistently at the top of the list. We have an inside, I guess, information on the products that they're releasing and the research they're doing.
Yep.
They're our partner, our relations partner for Samsung. Excellent.
Absolutely.
So excellent.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah, hi, Adam. Yeah, getting information to us, letting us know what's coming down the pike, getting us like stuff to test with our own systems, giving us loaner stuff. Just so awesome to work with Samsung. And again, like that is just no cutting corners on anything. And so, which is the reason why everything that we can put on a Samsung drive, we do.
Yeah, the partnership has spilled over from TALINO into our software division. So those of you that have gotten the new ITR or bought Lab in the last couple of months, notice that it's shipping on the new Samsung T7 drive, has the security thumbprint on it. So super awesome. Yeah, we can't speak enough about Samsung, that's for sure.
Yeah, so let's talk about the case design just one more time. So about it being proprietary. So we have started like with off the shelves in the beginning. We started with some old, I'll just be honest, Leon Lee cases.
Yep.
But then that morphed into an actual cases where we own those diagrams and designs and tweak them and modify them, and you cannot get them anywhere else.
That's correct. So there's a couple things there, right? So obviously we told you about the exciting part at the front end of the program, which is the speed increase and the performance longevity that you get. But on the other side, for those of you that are stuck trying to get a workstation and fight through the administrative red tape that you have to do to get that, here's the thing. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of sole sourcing, right? Sole sourcing is when you can tell a government entity, hey, I have to have this one because there's nothing else like it out there on the market. This is the sole source provider of this, and we have to have it. So there's a couple of ways you can go about doing that, right? You can have a benefit or feature that's built into it that is something that's going to give you an increase, or you can just have something that's specific to yours, right? So I'll give you so there are a lot of people that have things out there that they add in that might be like an additional storage tray for things, or somewhere where you can put things, or they might do something slightly different with their case that's really not performance driven, right? The sole sourcing that we do comes in two phases. The first one, and the most important one, is the chassis, because you cannot duplicate that. You cannot get it anywhere else. It's 3 millimeters of rolled aluminum designed to dissipate heat like you wouldn't believe. Steve's going to be proud of me because I think that is the first time in the last 2 years of us recording anything that I actually said dissipate heat without screwing it up. Kind of proud of myself too. But that's the first part, right? So that's really important for anyone that's trying to get a TALINO that's struggling with that. That is the reason why That is the reason that you're going to say, look, no one else can do this, right? And it's the truth. You cannot get that anywhere else. And it has a material benefit, right? So sometimes you'll get purchasing agents or purchasing that say, nope, we can just do brand specific because that doesn't really change the performance in any way. So any forensic computer is a forensic computer, right? Any of them have cooling. Yes, none of them have the dual chamber, and that's the difference. The other thing that we have that I alluded to before that nobody else does is we have Paladin for TALINO. So you might say to yourself, okay, how is that sole source? Paladin's free, right? I've been listening to the podcast you guys do, and in every one of them you talk about giving away Paladin to the world. That's true. However, there's additional functionality built into Paladin for TALINOs that's not available in our version that you can get from the website or that you can purchase through Paladin Pro. Paladin for TALINO is a different system with some different tools built in specifically for the TALINO hardware. So that's the second punch of the 1-2 punch to defeat the sole source problem.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and we're not, I want to make it clear, right? We're not sitting here going, you need to buy TALINO because we want to make more money. We want you to have a TALINO so that you have less problems. And that goes into, like, for example, coming from law enforcement, overtime issues, right? So here's the way you can look at this, and this is what a few of our customers have already explained to their superiors as well, which is you can actually buy a lesser expensive computer that's, and we'll talk about similar specs, right, in a second here. But if it's not designed, or they're cutting corners, or everything's not up to par like the TALINO is, it's going to crash more often. It's going to go down more often, and that's going to lead to more overtime. Even like heat issues is going to cause more blue screens. More components to fail. And again, you're going to have to wait for the computers to be fixed, or spend money on new computers because that one broke, and you're not getting the support that you need to get from the person you bought it from, the company you purchased from. So it all equates to like overtime and more expenses if you just buy a better computer. And here's the thing, we can almost always match prices. Like, we're not willing to go to the lowest common denominator where you just have like the crappiest components and stuff and go down to that level, but we can match most, like any other competitor's prices on most cases, and probably give you a better machine, like, and obviously by all the things we talked about. Which, let's just talk really quickly about the specs, because that's a huge trick that a lot of people do when you have to put out something for bid. So we're talking about sole sourcing so they can get around going to bids, but in many government agencies or corporate agencies, you have to put stuff out for bid, get 3 votes from vendors. But specs are not all the same specs. Even though they say they are, they're not. And this has been a big problem, and people regret it later on. We have customers going, I tried the hardest I could to get TALINO, and I couldn't do it. They had to go with the lowest price. But even though it's kind of the same specs, it's not. Can you explain it, Trip, like processors and RAM and so on?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things there, right? And it is tricky. So try for the sole source first, because that fixes it. But past that, when you're putting stuff out for bid, it's really important that you, if you're looking for a TALINO and you're afraid that you're going to get something that's not the same, right? Here's the things to do when you put that bid out. Be very specific about the processor you want, including the version of the processor. The
generations and such, yeah.
So what can happen, right, is you could put out a bid for, let's say, i9 7800 processor, right? And you can get someone that will give you one of the last generation ones instead of the current one, and you're stuck with it, or a V4, V5, V3 with your Xeon processors, right? So if you're not very specific about that version, someone can say, nope, I meet it all, there it is, and they've actually bought that processor on eBay for $150 because it's
right.
two
so
generations
there's different
back.
Types of RAM as well, right?
Right. Same thing with RAM. All RAM is not the same, so you want to be specific about the type of RAM you're looking for, and to a degree. So here's the other thing, and this is why you should try and get through the sole source thing. What you can't defend against, unfortunately, is people saying, yes, I'm going to give you a TALINO or something that's equivalent to it in all regards. And when it gets there, right, and you open it up and look inside it, it's not Samsung SSD, Steve. It's not the same RAM that we use, right? It's not those things that you see, and they've cut corners on it. So try for the sole source first, because there are people out there that will do that. certainly not going to name any names, but we've talked to many, many people over the years that have gotten a computer that their purchasing agent told them this is the same as a Talino. It has all the same specs. You're going to get it because we got it for $5,000 less. And it's not, and the thing doesn't end up working. And so that leaves us to a couple other things I want to talk about. One is our customer service and warranty support. And then the second thing is, which I'll let Steve talk about because he helped us optimize this a little earlier in the year. When we started out making Talinos back in the day in the basement, it wasn't really a checklist. There was a couple of us building, and we would build them and switch off. The other one would look at it and say, okay, yeah, it looks good, right? And they would go out. And that worked really well for those computers. But as we got bigger, that became an impossibility. So Steve, why don't you talk to us about the testing program, the burn-in, and the checklist, and what it takes to actually build a computer?
Yeah, so sorry about this. It's going to turn a little bit longer episode than we usually do, but it's well worth it if you want to listen. So basically, it's essentially this in a nutshell. We try to break the Talinos before they go out the door because we want them, if they're going to fail, we want them to fail before they go out so that we can fix what's failing and then push it out there so it's absolutely good. So we literally try to break the Talinos, not by physically destroying them, but literally run them as fast as we can run them, max out the processor, max out the RAM, max out everything that we can do, and let it run for a minimum of 72 hours. We were the first and only to do that. And so there's other people who are saying that we're doing it now. We do it. We block airflows. We put them in hot rooms.
Yep.
We do all kinds of stuff. We try to simulate really extreme one of the funniest things I saw, I can't even say this, I will name someone, but let's just say there was one particular room in one particular police agency, one particular company that said no, certain type of this vendor allowed in this room because the heat would just kill it. So we try to actually break the machines before they go, and then if we can't break it, then that's when they actually get shipped to you. But then we actually went through a little bit more for standardization, and we went really intensive on just finding the most, I hate to say this, OCD people that we can find, and go through and literally find the best of the best within our teams that do the building, and then actually have them and all of us come up with a checklist that we go through where it's checked by, is it 4 different people before it goes out the door? Yeah, it's like 4 now. So there's 4 different checks of the Talino before it actually goes out the door in your hands. So if anything comes, not to your liking, I would definitely like to hear about it because, again, there's 4 people that are going to be in my office instead of just 1. So it's not, as someone has mentioned to me before, I like to say a Mickey Mouse operation. So it's actually very, very detailed, and we're very specific about how these computers, we're very proud of what we do, everything, and every day we're looking to do improvements on them. So it's really good. I'm really proud of how the changes have come along the years.
Yeah, so the last thing to talk about is the customer support and the warranty. Of course, obviously, we have a 3-year warranty, very similar to what everyone else has now in the industry. But what makes us different, right, is that you can always reach us. Our customer support and we will never change that. Our customer support is always something that's available, and then during business hours you can reach us and we respond usually within an hour, if not sooner. And certainly, like Steve said, more than happy to hear people's experiences if they've found different. And then I also still know a whole lot about hardware and Talinos. So if you're having trouble, I'll just throw it out there right now, 302-540-9374. It's not my office number. It's not to the receptionist. It's not to the switchboard. That's my cell phone. Call me on it if you have a Talino with issues.
Yeah, we should do another podcast on customer support.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, not to say we haven't made mistakes in the past, but but those get
stories
corrected
we
quickly.
could tell.
Yeah, but we try to take customer support seriously, and so if you call during business hours, you're going to get a person you can talk to, not a directory listing or one of those dial by this number type thing. You're going to actually talk to a real person who will walk the phone over to another real person. So that you don't have to deal with any of those issues. But yeah, customer support is from what I hear and from what I've seen, it's just unbelievable for Talino. Again, we take care of anything. We've even gone so far as to rebuild workstations for people and drive 10 hours to get there and be there then over the weekend and rebuild a workstation just to get it working. And
rumor has it that operation might have taken place in another country as well.
It was in another country too. Yes, so that's what happens when things get to right. I tell you, get in the car. We're gonna go fix this now. Where is it? It's Canada.
So I think pretty much that's it. I mean, if I could leave it with one last thought, Steve, the difference between TALINO and any other workstation out there has nothing to do with anything other than the people that are involved and the pride that they take in their work, from the design to the purchasing to the acquisition of the superior components, the building, the checklist, the shipping, and the aftercare, I guess, for lack of a better term. We actually call or email and find out, hey, your TALINO should be there. Did you get your TALINO right? And for those of you that worried about what Steve said, that you call and one person hands a phone to another, for those of you youngins that are into the digital age, we do have a chat feature on our website that does allow you to talk to a real person, but not with your voice, with your fingers. And so that's always available, as well as our support at support.sumuri.com. So we have all the traditional means as well, but feel free to use my phone number when none of that works, or call the office line and they'll put somebody on with you right away.
Yeah, so one of the things that if you're listening to this podcast and one of the things we try to give something away or whatever, I think if you've not received a challenge coin and you've listened, please reach out to Jason for TALINO challenge coin. So jason@sumuri.com.
Yeah, let's use the jason@sumuri.com and not the phone number for that one.
Yeah.
Please give me your mailing address and I'll handle the rest.
Yeah. So, all right, well.
I think that's another great podcast. I think we've covered enough. Thanks for taking your time. Hopefully everything's good and healthy in the world, and we're starting to turn the corner by the time this podcast broadcasts. Woo! All right, so made it through heat dissipation. Couldn't make it all the way through without...
What was your tongue to say? Dangle your dongle.
Yeah, dangle your dongle. There you go. That's another good one. So hopefully everybody's safe and healthy out there, and God willing, this pandemic has turned the corner and we're all headed to a successful second half of the year. Thanks, and be safe.